How do you do? My name is George. We are here for a quick sip, just a quick little review of this beer from Prizm. The beer is called Apparition. Let's get into it. All right, hi, welcome. We are going to do just a quick little sip of this fantastic beer. Well, I think it's fantastic. It smells good so far. But it is called Apparition. It's from a brewery called Prizm from southern France. It's a thiolized, double dry hopped New England IPA with Phantasm and WLP 077. And what that means is it's a White Labs yeast, which is a manufacturer of yeast out of San Diego, California, where I'm from, but they have facilities around the world as well. Phantasm is a product made from dried grape skins that I actually just finished doing a video on pretty recently with kind of the companion beer to this. I'll put that somewhere up there for you to click on and check out. That one's a lot more detailed on what Phantasm is and what thiolized yeast and all that stuff means. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and take a look at this. This one's going to be just more of a quick review. A little bit about the brewery. They're from southern France, Montpellier region, which is down south. And they're called Prizm with a Z. They opened up in 2020, in August of 2020, so right in the midst of the pandemic. Kind of a collaboration between three partners. They have a lot of experience in the industry. A few of them actually, at least, were involved in a pretty large beer distributor, and seems like they have a lot of marketing prowess and knowledge, at least. They hit the ground running, we could say. And so they have this series of beers where they're brewing pretty much the same beer, but then they're just changing out the yeast, which is great because you can get a little bit of a feel for how the yeast is playing a role. If you know from the video, or if you go back and watch that video, which you might want to do now and then come back here to get a little comparison, the yeast can play a huge role in how these thiolized beers sort of portray themselves. The hops are the same for the series. So we have Motueka, Nelson, and Mosaic. And then what they're changing is the yeast, and then they're adding Phantasm to each one. So this one is also 7% alcohol. And this came in like in a little 4-pack. Yeah, let's just dig into the beer. Let's enjoy it. Cheers. So I'm noticing definitely that same kind of tropical fruit aroma that I got on the Mirage, which was the beer that I used for the longer video. I will say that the aroma is not jumping out of the glass as much as it was on the K97 example, but it does smell quite nice. And I am getting maybe a little bit more of kind of sort of underripe fruit, whereas before on the other beer I was getting more of this kind of overripe fruit, like overripe papaya and mango, pineapple. Here I am definitely getting still some of that pineapple and mango, but I do get a little bit more of like a dried herb characteristic, or even like dried orange peel, dried lemon, like blood orange, and like mandarin. So a little bit more heavy on the citrus in this case than I picked up on the other one. I definitely got some of those notes on that one as well, but and then even gooseberry. Hey, definitely a fruit cocktail. Okay, the bitterness actually is coming through just a touch more on this one, and the mouthfeel doesn't feel as, I'm going to pick my words here because I wanted to say like slick, but that could make someone think of like diacetyl, which isn't what I'm getting here. So I'll just say kind of like full or kind of creamy, which again might make someone think of diacetyl in some regards. But the mouthfeel on this does feel, I should just say maybe a little bit more thin, a little bit more dry. It'd be interesting to see kind of like the statistics on this beer, if it had a different final gravity, etc. I mean, if they're being honest about the alcohol and it's the same beer and the final gravity was the same or not the same, then that could be a thing, but I don't really know. I don't have the information. I don't have their data in front of me, so I couldn't say. This does feel, I guess, yeah, just a little less full body than the K97 did. There's a lot of things that can play a role or play an influence on that one. Overall, still a very nice, refreshing, drinkable beer. I don't find it as kind of big explosion of aroma as the K97. And I get a little bit more resinous kind of pulling on the tongue here. Now that could be, maybe they did something slightly different in the dry hopping. Maybe this had more contact. Maybe the temperatures were slightly different if they did whirlpool hops, etc. So there's a lot of other things playing here. I'm assuming they were trying to go for like the same exact process, when they made this beer versus Mirage, or if they split the batches. I actually don't really know if they did that. You know, for food, because it has this bitterness, I might play around a little bit more with something a little bit sweet, or maybe something with like a little bit of fat, but I would keep it pretty lean, probably poultry or pork, or, you know, a fairly lean steak, but I wouldn't go too fatty with it, or too bold with like any sort of toppings or dressings. Yeah, overall, enjoyable beer. I'd say a nice kind of West Coast style thiolized IPA. Not a very firm bitterness, but still present. And I do enjoy it quite a bit. I think in terms of like interest on the aroma and like intriguing, or I should say intrigue, I do think that the K97 example was doing better, was a little bit more interesting. That said, like I was saying before, there could be a lot of factors in that, so I wouldn't rule out this or that. It's just a preference thing too. So, which is interesting because I think in terms of preference, yeah, I don't know. I like them both. They're both really fantastic. So, cheers. Get yourself some Prizm beers. Let me know if you've had the whole 4-pack and what you thought between all 4 of them. I'd love to know. Until next time, cheers.